Hello and welcome to Your Property Empire. I'm Chris Gray. On tonight's show, no matter whether you are a first home buyer, an upgrader or an investor, what are the panel's top tips on getting into the market? If you're looking to sell, what can you do if you're not getting the price you really want? And what does it take to become the top-selling real estate agent 5 years in a row? Well, joining me tonight to comment on our stories is Tom Panos, Head of Real Estate Advertising at News Corp, and Charles Tarbey, Chairman and Owner of Century 21 Australasia. Good to see you guys, as always. Well, kind of mid-June now, heading towards the end of the financial year. I thought we'd get into some top tips. Let's start with you, Charles. What about first home buyers? What can they be doing at the moment?
I think the same thing we've been talking about for a long time, and that is to make sure they buy where they can afford and rent where they want to live. And a lot of people that do that too make the mistake of focusing on rental return when they buy a property. So they buy them in further outlying areas and might get a better rental return. That they should be focusing to make sure there's plenty of capital growth in there, a capital growth potential, more than rental return. So they're two things I definitely point out to anybody who asks me that question. Because
the worry is in those outlying areas is if interest rates do go up, which we all think they will do, then there's less likely to have the money to be able to afford the mortgage.
Yes, that's true. I think, though, it's safe. I like people getting into the market, but always qualify that by saying getting into the market is not just what it's about. And a lot of people make the mistake getting into the market in areas where they sit there for years and years and years, and the interest rates go up and down, the rents don't move much, and they get nothing at the end of the time, and they wonder why they even invested in real estate to start with. I've seen that happen quite a lot.
Now, Tom, I think you've said on the shows before that you're not going to give your daughters a handout and they're going to maybe have to get a job to get their deposit. Any thoughts on what first home owners could be doing if the parents aren't handing out the cash?
And I hope the girls are watching because it's on record now. So the one thing I'll say is that there is some good news. July 1, stamp duty for first home buyers up to $650 or thereabouts has been abolished, and I think that if you can wait.
You mean the reintroduction of the...
Yeah, the reintroduction. If you can wait till the 1st of July, so I would say if you're watching the show right now, the reality is if you buy a property on July 1 or afterwards, you are going to be, if you're a first home buyer, approximately at a $650,000 price bracket, you'll be about $25,000 better off. I was seeing on the weekend some buyers hanging back, and they basically said, look, the reality is if we wait 2 weeks, we're going to have this benefit. But, Chris, prices might be higher because there might be 3 or 4 people that want to buy that one property because they're in the same boat, you know. So that would be my tip. Charles's, yeah.
I always worry when they came out before is suddenly people will go from living in a really good area to then going into a brand new house and land package area just to get the free stamp duty, but they could be making a worse investment decision or paying over the odds. So you've got to balance it.
You've got to balance it. You've got to balance the short-term benefit of saying, hey, it's like someone's giving me $25,000 to the fact that you might be doing what Charles said, and that is you might own a property since 2008 that hasn't gone up.
Yeah, and truly, I have seen that happen, and it's very scary when that does occur for some people, that they sit there with an expectation. But the Victorian government introduced this new concept recently. New South Wales has followed it. Now, I don't know whether the other states will follow, but it doesn't apply to just new homes anymore. It applies to anything, and I think it's just a price point. So that's a big change, and I guess I would be waiting too, but what Tom said there, how many people are sitting on the fence ready to pounce?
Exactly.
And the last thing we need is a mini boom in the lower end. Yeah. I think we've had enough booms over the last few years.
So, Tom, what about maybe some upgraders who also got to sell at the same time?
I would say for them it's a good time because if they can get a buyer now, and it has got more challenging in most parts of Australia. In most parts of Australia it's been good, but now it's been more challenged the last month or so. I would say if you can get a buyer, sell now, and then try and get a longer settlement, maybe add another 4 to 6 weeks to your settlement, and make sure that you're out there able to buy in spring where there's going to be a lot more properties. So you've got a sale secured, you've got a long settlement, you're not rushing. I think that's the ideal strategy for someone that's upgrading.
Would you back that up, Charles?
Yeah, I would. I think the upgrading process has been around for a while because, you know, if you've got a good property and you're going to be either upgrading or downgrading, if you like, or downsizing, there's been a very opportune time right now. People say, oh, wait, but why wait? Because whatever you sell for today, the whole market's relative all the way through. So if you're downsizing, it's a great time. If you're upsizing, it gets harder because there's not much stock up there. There's more stock down at this price range than there is at that price range.
Yeah.
So the downsizers have got a massive advantage right now in the marketplace. And I was speaking to Wayne Stewart from Newcastle on radio earlier on, and they're getting the wave now. They're still getting the wave out of Sydney, and there are property prices there. $2 to $3 million in Newcastle, so it's really moving out, and they range from anywhere from 450 to one that he told me at 2.7 million, so all within a reasonably short distance of each other.
And Tom, I guess it's got to be a sign that people are interested in property. If Charles does a radio show from kind of 7 till 8 and then he runs straight to Sky News and gets on his TV show at the same time, there must be a lot of people talking real estate out there.
I'm trying to... Where do you go after here, Charles?
No, well, yeah, I think I've already gone there.
We'll move
Tom
on to...
Tom was our guest tonight. Tom comes on regularly now, so he tells some great stories.
Oh,
this Mr. Panos.
This is Mr. Story himself. What about best tips for investors, Tom?
Do what the buyer did at Brown Street, Newtown, at 9:30 on Saturday, and she was on her own with her partner, and they bought it for $650,000 because there was not a first home buyer there, because all the first home buyers were waiting until July 1, and the investor was there, and the investor said, I'm not getting the grant, but I'm here today and I want to buy it. And they bought the property for $650,000. So I would say buy now, because you're not going to have...
2 weeks.
You've got 2 weeks. So whatever you're doing, cancel all your plans and start looking for real estate.
Not getting the grant, get out there now. And
Correct.
So there's an advantage for whomever. Sorry.
Charles, what about best tips for owners selling in this market?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting marketplace. The stock levels are just starting to look like they might creep up, although they're still negative for the last few weeks, but people are starting to prepare. I think it's time to be realistic. I think it's to make sure that if you're going to be selling to buy something else, that you get that secured fairly quickly already. Because I do think there's going to be a bit more competition, so you need to make your property stand out, and there's a number of ways of doing that. And I think that if I was selling right now, or had to sell right now, that I'd make my home a bit more attractive. I'd probably even negotiate terms just to get a buyer, because I do think in most of Australia the market's changing in favour of buyers.
And a quick one from you, Tom. What if you're not getting the price you want?
If you're not getting the price you want, you better change your perspective, because if you're upgrading or if you're buying another home, there's 2 chapters to the book: what you sell at and what you buy at. Now, I understand if you're selling your property and you're going to take the money and put it elsewhere, put it in the share market. I don't know whether why you want to put it in there, because someone told me today that they bought Commonwealth Bank shares, and he said to me they're lower than what I paid for them in 2008. Now,
you don't get that with property, do you, Tom?
You very rarely get that with property. Very rarely get that with property. But getting back to it, what I would say is, if you're selling a property and you're going to buy, don't forget, you might sell 20 grand cheaper, but you're probably going to buy 40 grand cheaper if you're upgrading.
So you're still winning. Charles, let's jump into the auction clearance rates. What's happening?
They were lower again this week. They've been trending downwards. 69.6 was the actual national clearance rates. This time last year, though, it was 67.8. So it's starting to nudge around the same time, or the same time frame. Most capital cities performed slightly above what they did last year, so except for areas like Canberra, which underperformed, and that's been overperforming. But 72.4% was Sydney, and 72.2% was Melbourne. When you look at the after clearance, after auctions, when you put the deals together, Adelaide came in at 71.8%. But as I mentioned, Canberra was lower in the 60s, early 63. So it's not as good as it has been. So, but they're having to fight hard. These auctioneers, like Tom, having to work very hard.
Tom's worth the money at the moment.
Very hard.
He's working hard.
Yes, he's actually working for his money.
What about homes advertised for sale?
Yeah, down 4 weeks in a row now, 1.66 down over this time last week. But again, we had a massive climb a few weeks ago, and we still haven't reached that. So we're still in positive territory if I take it over the last 6 weeks.
And Tom was thinking about more stock coming out in spring. Is that automatically going to happen?
Well, I suspect it will. I think, as we've started to say now, we're probably seeing the first ever real estate cycles kick in. There was no winter cycle in the last 5 years. It was just hell for leather. I think we're now in a proper real estate winter cycle, and so too which spring should perform the same way.
And how are we doing for rents at the moment?
Yeah, not too bad. Still very, very stable around the countryside. We haven't massive increases at all. The only one that really highlighted this last week was Hobart, with a 2.51% increase over this time last week. But Darwin was the negative at 1.31. It was the worst. So 0.47 negative overall, but still up over the last 24 months, Chris.
And finally, the vacancy rates.
Good news here. Sydney wasn't the best performer. Melbourne was at 0.64. Sydney came in at 1.49, but hallelujah for Perth. It's been climbing up, and it's back down 7.57% this week. That's a couple of weeks on its way down. That gave us an average of 3.23%. So I'm really pleased about Perth, because I think that's the market to start watching very, very closely.
Sure. We'll see what happens. Tom, quick tip from you before we go to the break. The biggest mistake that sellers are making at the moment?
I think they should come out onto the market a little bit quicker, because if what we're saying is spring, more stock coming on the market, be 2 or 3 weeks ahead of everyone else. Be on the market where there's less stock. Don't be in competition. Be in isolation. So I would say is get the handyman over, quickly tidy it up, call the agent and tell them that you want to be on the market a few weeks before spring.
Some great ideas. Wonderful. Well, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back soon with one of the agents that's had the top results for the last 4 or 5 years. We'll be back soon.
You know that business. The one that's known for that thing, that's something special. Like Cargo Crew. Work uniforms that actually look good. Genius. Started small, got big. This big. With a little advice and Skype for Business Online from Telstra, make global orders from the lounge room. See, long-distance relationships can work. But you know what? This business started like yours. Be that business with the tools to help you thrive.
We know you've always worked hard for your money. Isn't it time your money worked hard for you? Invest with La Trobe Financial, trusted by Australians for more than 60 years and judged Money Magazine's best mortgage fund 8 years in a row.
Discover why Volvo is one of the world's fastest growing luxury car brands this end of financial year. With great offers across the range, now is the time to forge your own path.
Treasure, just waiting to be discovered. So look a little closer and see what others don't. Join Expedia Plus Rewards today and discover member pricing and more.
If you're planning on selling your home, what's the best way to get the best price for it? Add a games room. Do some landscaping. But the best way to get more for your home is to find a great real estate agent. Local Agent Finder compares from thousands of agents, including their fees, in minutes.
Stock up by June 30 on FSC certified J. Burrows A4 copy paper and get that tax-deductible feeling just like that. At $19.95 a carton, it's another reason Officeworks is your happy tax place.
Budget Direct customers have got it covered. They're with Money Magazine's Insurer of the Year.
Good to go.
And it's the 3rd time they've won it. Do you get award-winning insurance? Get more with Budget Direct.
Kia's 7-day sale is on now. On top of great drive-away deals, receive a free $777 gift card across the range. Plus, Australia's only 7-year warranty. Hurry, Kia's 7-day sale ends June 25.
What did he say? He says you can see quite well.
Donate to the Fred Hollows Foundation today and help restore sight.
Golfbox's mid-year price slice is on now. Huge savings on everything golf. Clubs, bags, balls, clothing, shoes, everything's reduced. Plus free Air Express delivery Australia-wide. Shop now and save at golfbox.com.au.
No day on the market is predictable. There's always winners and losers, and it's getting tougher to call the outcomes. On Ticky, we take you where the market goes and where you should be looking next. Every night, 6 p.m, and again later. Join me, only Sky News Business.
Welcome back to Your Property Empire. Well, joining me on the show tonight is Tom Panos, Head of Real Estate Advertising at News Corp, and we've just been joined by Gavin Rubinstein from Ray White Double Bay, the awarded #1 salesperson for Ray White New South Wales, almost 5 times in a row, still under 30, and that's virtually never happened before. So welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
I guess the quickest question is, or the obvious question is how do you do it?
Pretty simple, hard work.
That's probably not what the viewers or the other agents want to hear, is it? But it is hard work.
But it's the truth. Real estate is a fair industry. It's like all businesses. You get out what you put in. And I wish I had some sort of, because I get asked that question a lot, fluffy answer or bag of tricks to run through and teach you. But you know, Tom can confirm we've known each other for a few years. We put in the work day in, day out consistently, and we're disciplined around doing it.
And probably just to give them a rough idea for those that aren't agents, kind of what time does the day start, when's it finish, and probably how many phone calls are you making a day or a week?
For me, the day starts Monday to Friday, 5 a.m, in the gym at 5:30. And, you know, all of my clients know that from that point they can contact me. It really goes up until my last appointment for the day is finished. There's no set time. You know, never once, and I'm fortunate to be able to say I've ever looked at the watch and said, you know, is the day over yet? And I guess passion's got a bit to do with that, which is something, you know, I'm thankful for. But phone calls, hundreds. You know, again, however many calls need to be made to get the tasks done, we get through it.
Now, Tom, part of your coaching program that you run with the agents is you interview a lot of these young guns and the old guns.
Well, he's the best of the lot in the coaching program. Like this guy...
I'll slip you a 20 later,
he's the pinnacle, but go on, what were you going to say?
But it's a common thing, isn't it, is people like that turn up early, they go late, and they make a hell of a lot of phone calls, and they obviously constantly improve themselves.
They do. I mean, the difference with Gav is... Chris, there's a lot of what I call keyboard warriors. They say all the right stuff. The point is that he's making, it's an interesting thing. If a buyer wants to spend $3 or $4 million and you've got to speak to them at 10 o'clock at night or at 5:45 a.m. in the morning, the point is he's available, and that's what clients want, because people now, Chris, are used to the fact from other industries, from Uber, the fact that we've had disruptive models. They want answers there and then. I can tell you, I can ring Gav. This guy is the best of the best, and I can ring him and he'll take the call. You can ring up some real estate people, you wait 2 days to get a return of call.
So, Gavin, I guess with people trying to hire a real estate agent, what is the key things that they should be looking for? Because I guess it's not just purely hard work, there's got to be a lot more to it as well.
100%. I say look for the practitioner, not the real estate agent. And there's a big difference. And I think as time goes on, that gap is getting bigger and bigger. And so, you know, I would say that there are multiple moving parts to each transaction that an agent is responsible for. But the two main functions of an agent, and jump in if you think I'm wrong at any point, is step 1, market. Agent needs to know how to market. And step 2, and most important, negotiate. You know, how
market themselves or market the properties?
100% market the properties. But, you know, you talk about how can we test if I'm a prospective vendor looking to appoint an agent, if these agents can market or not in a good way, or one of the factors of many is to look at how do they market themselves, what's their attention to detail like. Very small sort of facet of that whole process, but they need to know how to market the properties. What I would do if I was a seller would be look at all their past property campaigns, look at how they present their homes for sale, their photos, the video. People underestimate how important that part of this whole process is. It's almost like a trailer to the main event, right? It gets the buyers to the open home. And then step 2, and this is the most, without question, unequivocally important function of a real estate agent, how well can they negotiate? Are they a good negotiator? And again, if I was a seller, I would test their mettle in a listing presentation. I would, you know, throw out a low fee, see how they react. And I can tell you, and I've heard you say this on the show before, if an agent will just take that on the chin, when it comes down to the negotiation table and they're with a buyer and the buyer tries to offer a low price, they'll do the exact same thing.
So if they can't negotiate their own fee, what are they going to do with your millions?
That's everything. And I think, you know, a lot of vendors have the wrong approach to that because they're looking for the cheap agent at the start. But I think we all know who have expertise and experience in the industry, the cheap agent long-term ends up being more expensive. 100%.
Now, Tom, you always talk about social media as well. Gavin's turned up half an hour before the show. He's probably spent 20 minutes of that half an hour on social media.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's pretty important as well.
Absolutely, because I think the point that Gav is making is that in this new world that we live in, this new connection economy, everything you're doing is either building or destroying brand equity in a property. I've seen what he does in a property. He treats it, he thinks that he is the Nike product manager, basically like launching a new product in the market, and that's the way he treats properties. And the next thing is, when you're marketing property, Chris, the reality is that like you're hosting a TV show, people also see you. When you're marketing real estate, they also see the person that's marketing the real estate. They don't only just see the product. So Gav is mindful that everything is working in combination. But I think he nailed it. Your first thing that you said, there's only two things an agent brings to the table: marketing to attract people, and once you've got that buyer, the ability to extract top dollar.
It's everything.
And I want to ask you this, Gav. What percent is a good agent worth over a poor agent? Would you say 5% that can get you more?
The difference, right, I believe is a range between a practitioner and a real estate agent, and I need to be very, very clear.
And you want to define what a practitioner is versus a real estate agent?
You tend to find 20% of the real estate agents write 80% of the business. Interesting, I ask other people in other industries if that equation applies. It seems to in quite a lot. But most of the guys writing the 20% are a practitioner. If I was to sit here to tell you every attribute and facet of what a practitioner of the game does, we'd be here all night. I simply couldn't break it down in priority order because we don't have the time. But it's 10 to 15%. An agent who actually knows what they're doing, and particularly, you know, in my marketplace, when you're selling $3, $4, $5 million properties, you know, even 5%, you're talking big bucks. So the conversation in a negotiation handled incorrectly can cost the vendor a lot of money. And it's really, really important people understand there is a big difference.
And with the sales campaign, is there like 10 steps to guarantee you've got a successful campaign, or is each property different?
3.
And is the market different from June to January?
Yeah, look, I think there are 3 steps always to ensuring that you can control the aspects to ensuring you maximise the result, and that is price, presentation, marketing, right? So from a marketing standpoint, you know, you want to make sure that you advertise in all mediums available to you. So, you know, to me, again, in my marketplace, when you're looking at the $3, $4, $5 million houses, to not spend money on print, I think even today is detrimental. Now, is it as powerful as the internet? 100% not, but there's still a place for it, because if you get that one extra buyer who doesn't even buy the home but pushes that buyer up, again, 5%, we're talking big bucks. Price, step number 2. You need to ensure that whatever price you are guiding or even put on that agency or even tell the seller is representing value, because you need to get people excited about the property. You need to get them through the front door. And presentation, the place needs to look good.
You're obsessed with presentation.
Obsessed. Yeah.
I mean, I've been told.
I mean, we're still waiting to find our tie.
You look good. You look really good. I'm working on him. It's a process.
I had a pocket square on Wednesday last week. I made great progress, and I went backwards.
Now, Tom, obviously you're seeing a lot of agents. You're interviewing the best of the best. What is the percentage of agents that are really good versus, I guess, average Joe Blows out there? How many people are just turning up 9 to 5?
20%, as Gav says, are practitioners. They take it quite seriously. And then I would say that there's 5% that have made the decision that they're going to go pro, and they're going to treat it as if they're the best in the sport. And then you've got Gav would be in the 1% where they've got all those qualities, but they don't sleep. So it's hard to beat someone that won't go to sleep.
Yeah.
Now, just very quickly, Gavin, there's a lot of people, you operate in a very competitive market.
Sure.
There's a lot of buyers. You sell it to one person and there might be 10 or 20 buyers that are seriously annoyed because they've missed out.
Yep.
What's your advice to those guys? Be friendly with the agent.
Yeah, look, I mean, to a point, but I feel that if there is a buyer who is continually missing out, and you see lots of cases of these, I'd have to say appoint a buyer's agent. I see value in them. I really do. And again, depending on... Do you like that?
I like Gavin. Good.
Depending on who the buyer's agent is, I have huge belief in a buyer's agent's value. You know, being a real estate agent, being a buyer's agent, provide a service, create the value. Pretty simple.
Wonderful stuff. Top advice. We better jump onto your property of the week, Tom. Let's dive in there.
Let's go in. Heidelberg West, and I've got to tell you, you wouldn't even sell a bedroom for this, Gav. So 650 to 690,000 as it comes up there on the screen. Auction on the 1st of July. So 1 Ebony Parade in Heidelberg West. It's 12 k's from the city, as you're looking up on that screen there.
Best carpet in the neighbourhood.
Well, I must say that that's got potential all over at that property there. 577 square metres of land. I'm looking at the polished floors there. Love on the screen there. But most importantly, what you're getting is a property that's a single-level brick home, can be occupied straight away. And I've just got some figures here. Heidelberg West has seen growth since 2004 to 2017 of 60%.
Wow.
60%. 60% growth.
Solid.
Yeah, that's strong.
And renovation potential.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Gavin, any top tips for agents out there that want to follow your success at 29? How do they get there?
As we said at the start, hard work. You need to have that ethic. What I love about having a good work ethic is it's teachable. You know, it's not like talent. You don't have to be born with it. If you really want it, it's out there.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Tom, thanks for joining us and for bringing some of the experts along as well. Thanks for joining us this evening. We'll be back next week. Until then, I'm Chris Gray. Good night.
The information featured in this program is general in nature and therefore should not be relied upon. Guests appearing on the program may have commercial arrangements with some of the companies mentioned. Before making any investment, insurance or financial planning decisions, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you.